and welcome to the Pathfinder Lair. My name is Drew and I've been a game master for over 10 years. On this channel I help new players understand the rules of the Pathfinder 2nd Edition system. Today in the Lair I will be covering the Ratfolk ancestry in the Advanced Player's Guide, otherwise known as the Isoki. Ratfolk make great wizards and alchemists, but they can also be really good rogues. Also, one thing I really like about this system is that any ancestry can be any class they want because of how the system is set up. So just because you get a flaw in strength doesn't mean you can't play that Folk Barbarian. For basics, Ratfolk get 6 ancestry hit points and have a speed of 25 feet. For ability boosts, they get dexterity and intelligence as well as a freebie. Their ability flaw is, as I mentioned before, strength. For languages, Ratfolk get Common and Isoki, as well as languages equal to their intelligence modifier. They also get low light vision. Now let's talk about Ratfolk heritages, starting with the Deep Rat. The Deep Rat heritage just gives you dark vision instead of low light vision. Pretty good. Next is the Desert Rat. You are native to arid plains and likely grew up traveling the roads. You have a leaner build than other ratfolk with longer limbs and short fur. If you have both hands free, you can increase your speed to 30 feet as you run on all fours. In addition, environmental heat effects are one step less extreme for you, and you can go 10 times as long as normal before you are affected by starvation or thirst. However, unless you wear protective gear or take shelter, environmental cold effects are one step more extreme for you. The third heritage that Ratfolk can take is the Long Snout Rat. This just gives you imprecise scent with a range of 30 feet. I explained this in detail in my Catfolk heritages video, so check that out in the card. The only difference between the hunting Catfolk heritage and this heritage is that this heritage doesn't have the bonus to tracking with survival. Next is the Sewer Ratch. You come from a long line of Isoki from a community based in the sewers beneath a large settlement. You are immune to the disease filth fever. Each of your successful saving throws against a disease or poison reduces the stage by 2 or by 1 for a very bad disease or poison. Each critical success against an ongoing disease or poison reduces its stage by 3 or by 2 for a really bad disease or poison. Pretty good. Lastly, for Ratfolk heritages, we have the Shadow Rats. You become trained in intimidation and can use that skill on animals. Whenever you use intimidation on animals, you don't take a penalty on the check for not sharing a language with them. And of course, if you're already trained in intimidation, you get another skill instead. Unfortunately, animals start as 1 attitude degree worse when interacting with you. Now let's talk about Ancestry Feet, starting with first level. Cheek pouches allows you to store up to 4 items of light bulk or less in your mouth. None of these items can be more than 1 foot in any dimension. As long as you have at least 1 item in your mouth, your speech is noticeably difficult to understand. Placing or retrieving something in your mouth is an interact action. You can also empty everything from your mouth as one action, causing it all to drop to the ground in your space. Great way to sneak something someplace as long as you don't need to talk. You can put that dagger in there too. Next is Pack Rats. Years of packing for travel have taught you how to cram vast quantities into small spaces. You can fit an additional 50% of the listed bulk capacity into mundane storage containers or vehicles. For example, you can fit 6 bulk in a backpack or 12 bulk in a chest. This doesn't alter the item's bulk, nor does it change how much you can store in a magical or extra-dimensional space, such as a bag of holding. Because the encumbrance system in Pathfinder 2 is so much easier to work with than it is in Pathfinder 1, this feat could be really good, depending on if you have a chest somewhere that you want to put items in. Rat Familiar is pretty self-explanatory, I think, but just in case, you gain a familiar like a wizard might. This familiar must be a rat. This works like any other familiar, but is always a rat. A rat with a rat. Pretty good flavor. Fourth, we have Ratfolk lore. This is a type of feat that shows up in just about every ancestry. You become trained in acrobatics and stealth, as well as Ratfolk lore. Pretty standard. Rat Speak is probably the best first level feat that Ratfolk have access to. It just allows you to talk to rodents. You can ask questions of, receive answers from, and use the diplomacy skill with rodents, including beavers, mice, porcupines, rats, and squirrels, but not with other mammals such as dogs or bats. The GM determines which animals count as rodents. There is pretty much always going to be some kind of rodent around no matter where you go, so you can get a lot of information from them. Next is Tinkering Fingers. This feat makes you trained in crafting and allows you to repair items without taking a penalty for not having a repair kit. You can just repair your shield without having to buy a repair kit? Fantastic feat. Vicious Incisors gives you a Jaws unarmed attack that deals 1d6 piercing damage. It is in the Brawling Weapon group and has the Finesse and Unarmed traits. What makes this feat different from other feats like this is that you can file down and regrow your teeth, allowing you to take this feat at any level and to retrain out of this feat. Lastly, for first level feats, we have the Warren Navigator feat. You're particularly good at solving mazes and navigating twists and turns. You gain the Trained Proficiency rank in Survival. And of course, if you're already trained in Survival, you get a different skill. When you sense direction, or you attempt to roll against a maze spell, you get 1 degree of success better than you rolled. You don't take a penalty to sense direction when you lack a compass. What's interesting about the Ratfolk is that they don't have the weapon familiarity feat that other ancestries have. Maybe they'll get one in a different book. Anyway, now let's move on to 5th level feats for the Ratfolk. Lab Rat is a great feat for an alchemist to take, at least flavor-wise. You spent more than your fair share of time in an alchemy lab. You might have been an alchemist yourself, an assistant, or perhaps even a test subject. Either way, you have been exposed to a wide variety of alchemical poisons and elixirs, leaving you with increased tolerance of their effects. You have a +1 circumstance bonus to saves against poisons and harmful effects from elixirs. If you roll a success on your saving throw against an elixir or a poison, you get a critical success instead. Next up for 5th level feats is Quick Stow. If you have cheek pouches, you can use this feat to stow 1 item in your mouth as a free action once per round. Good if you need to quickly stow something so others can't get to it, or if you need to quickly hide something. It does have to fit in your cheek pouches though. Rat Magic is another really good feat. It allows you to cast Animal Messenger once per day as a primal innate spell. The animal that responds is always a rat. If there are no rats around when the spell is cast, then the spell is lost. There will always be a rat around in the city, so this is good then. For 9th level Ratfolk feats, I will start with Big Mouth. If you have cheek pouches, you can store up to 1 bulk of items in your mouth instead of just 4 items of light bulk. Unfortunately, the dimensions of the items that you can store do not change. So you still cannot put that longsword in there, but you can carry more items in your mouth now. Next is the Overcrowd Feet. Your physiology is slight, and you can pack into small spaces with others of similar stature. As long as you are small, you can end your movement in the same square as a small ally. Only 2 creatures total can share the same space when using this ability or a similar one. I am so glad they brought this back. I remember having a boss fight in Pathfinder 1 where I took advantage of a similar ability to this one. Of course, back then, if there were 2 Ratfolk in the same space, they counted as flanking. They got rid of that part in this edition, but it's still a good feat. Lastly, for 9th level Ancestry Feats, is the Rat Form feat. This just allows you to transform into a regular-sized rat. You gain the effects of a 1st level Pest Form spell, except that you must assume the battle form of a tiny rat. This is great for scouting if you don't have a druid or anyone else that can cast Pest form. The last feat for Ratfolk in the Advanced Player's Guide is the 13th level feat, Warren Digger. This feat just gives you a burrow speed of 15 feet. That's it. Pretty simple, but very powerful, especially for a Ratfolk rogue. Being able to come up from underground sets up so many sneak attacks, it's actually crazy. Definitely worth taking. Ratfolk aren't as broken in this system as they are in Pathfinder 1, but they are still an excellent ancestry to take if you want to be a class that is intelligent or dexterous. But really, you can be any class with this ancestry. They have a lot of very good feats that will help any class, but especially rogues, alchemists, and wizards. Being able to store certain things in your mouth, being able to transform into a regular rat, and getting a bonus to saves against poisons and elixirs are all very good abilities to have. And that's going to wrap up this video. If this video helped you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Pathfinder 2nd Edition content. Be sure to check out my Tengu Ancestry album video coming out later this week. Next week I will cover some tips on how to balance encounters in Pathfinder 2e. And I will start my Versatile Heritages videos with the Changeling. So until next time, let's play some Pathfinder.
1, 2, 3.